I read a book called Look You Follow Brandy, which is a really famous Australian book, and another book called Does My Head Look Big in This by RANT. And it was the first time ever that I understood and realized that it's not necessarily reading that I didn't like. It was rather I couldn't find a book that spoke to myself or my community or the world that I came from. There was that connection. And so when I was 16, that was the first time I read a book from start to finish, and I became an avid reader after that. We teach you for almost 10 years. I realized that the same students that I sort of teach don't like reading as well. And I pretty much made a pact with them and said, look, I really wanted them to get to start reading. I said, how about if I write a book? And it was majority boys. I said, what if I write a book? Would you read it? And they said, yes. And I said, what do you want it to be about? And they said, well, it's got to be funny. It's got to have some jokes in there, and it's got to be about sport. So I said, okay. So it's on the condition that you would read. And they said, yes. And that was the spark in me to start writing because I knew how important it was to have representation in literature. And they say if it doesn't exist, you should create it. And so in 2016, I started the journey of writing my book called The F-Team, and it was published a month ago. I spent 4 years writing the book, and I was rejected more times than I can probably count. Nobody sort of believed in the story. I was even told that I should put the story away because, it's hard enough to be a writer, let alone a female writer, let alone a Muslim writer, let alone an Arab writer. So I'm a minority within a minority, I guess. And so I was told that I should put the story away at the bottom drawer. Actually, that's all you hear in the publishing world. Boys don't read. Girls are predominantly the readers. And so they said, why don't you just write a book for girls? You're more likely to sell. And unfortunately, in most sort of organizations now, industries, it's a capitalist world. It has to make money. That's what they look for. And I thought to myself, well, what's the alternative? If you say that boys don't read, maybe it's because you're not providing them with quality literature. It's not to say that there isn't out there, but there definitely needs to be more. And so the journey of writing was one of heartache, one of pain, one of crying. I didn't do it for financial reasons. If anybody knows anything about writing, you would know that you get paid absolutely zero. There's peanuts, actually. And so I actually quit my job to write the book, and I had no financial income. But I believed in representation in literature so much so that I was willing to sort of not buy so many things from ASOS, I guess, or in shopping. I had to cut my shopping for a little bit with kids because I made a pact with them. I said, I promise I will provide something that you would feel proud of and actually feel safe. It was more about a child picking it up and going, okay, I don't have to be the bad guy because I know this author is going to write and do me justice. They said, you just can't do a book launch whatsoever. And that broke my heart because my dream for 4 years was just to stand up and publicly acknowledge my parents because they are the reason why I'm here. I gave up many times, and it was my parents that said to me, you need to keep moving forward. Immigrant parents, they just think you read a book and it's extraordinary. My father has read it. But they sort of didn't understand that it was actually in bookstores, and the biggest bookstores in Australia. It's really awesome to have your book there. And so my father came home from work, and I sort of looked at my mother and said, stop pinning those potatoes. Let's get in the car. And I drove them to my local sort of bookstore in Burwood, and sort of I had my sort of phone, and I just wanted to see their reaction. And it was a sort of an intimate moment between myself and my parents. It was our little sort of book launch because I don't have one anymore. And to me, that was worth everything. And so I thought, I should share it, maybe some positivity in the world. And I woke up the next day with 1 million views. My parents are the silent writers of this book. I always say it. And if you open the front of my book, it says for Muhammad and Raifa, which are my parents' names. This is for you, and I hope I've made you proud.